Alright, today's lesson, fractions, decimals, and percents. We've been converting decimals to fractions, fractions to decimals. We're basically continuing the same concepts. I'm just adding percents. And the big idea is equivalent numbers, writing the same number in different forms. 1/2 is the same number as 50%, which is the same number as 0.5. They are all equivalent. They are all equal, but they're written in different forms. All right, so let's just start basic looking at the correlation between percents, fractions, and decimals. And then we will make it a little bit more difficult. But starting out, I'm going to start with 20%. Percents are always numbers out of 100. So when you convert it to a fraction, you think, well, it's 20% would be like 20 points out of 100 points. 20 100ths. I'm going to come back and I will simplify this fraction, but first, 20 100ths, 0.20. I can go straight to the decimal if I have denominator 100, which of course is the same thing as 0.2. All right, but we go back. I can cross off my zeros. I have 2/10. I can simplify that to 1/5. So 20% equals 1/5, which equals 0.2. All right, this time I'm going to start with a decimal, and we're going to move to fraction and percent. Let's say I have 2.02. Lots of twos. So 2.02, let's convert that to a fraction. That's 2 and 2 out of 100. I'll come back, I'm going to simplify that last. Let's think about how this relates to a percentage. 2 out of 100 is 2%, but what do we do with this number in front? Anytime you have a mixed number, we're looking at over 100%. So this is actually 202%. Percent. 202%. Oh, let's go back and simplify this fraction. 2 and 1/50. These are all equivalent numbers. 202% is the same number as 2 and 200ths. Same as 2 and 1/50, which is the same as 2.02. Now, before we move on, let's talk about decimals and percents real quick. So, 20%. All right, so now we're going to fill in this chart together. Each row, you start with a number. So for the first row, I start with 2.4, and then I will write all of the equivalent representations of that number as a percent, mixed number, improper fraction. But the next row, I start with a mixed number and have to change it to like a percent and a decimal. Then I start with a percent and change it to a decimal and a fraction. So let's get started. 2.4 is a decimal. To change it to a percent, if I have a number in front of that decimal, my percentage is going to be above 100, 200 and some percent. If I move my decimal over twice and add a 0, that's going to be 240%. All right, simplified mixed number, 2.4. So it's going to be 2 and, well, let's see, 0.4 is 4/10. Always simplify that, though, so 2 and 2/5. And now to change that to an improper fraction, 2 times 5, 10, plus 2, 12/5. So 2.4, 240%, 2 and 4/10, 2 and 2/5, and 12/5. are all the representations of that one number. All right, same idea, we're just starting in a different spot. If I have the mixed number 1 3/5, I'm going to change it to improper first. So 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So 8, keep the denominator, 5, 8/5. Percent and decimal. Let's do this. Let's go to decimal first. If I have 1 3/5, let's rewrite it as 1 6/10. 3/5 is the same as 6/10. So 6/10 is easy to write as a decimal. That turns into 1.6. Once I have the decimal, if I move the decimal to the right twice, add a 0, 160%. 160%, 1.6, 1 3/5, 8/5. All the same number, all equivalent. All right, third one down. Starting with a percentage. This time, let's see, so 388, so notice how we're moving decimal to the right. This time we're going to move decimal to the left. So its decimal, equivalent decimal is 3.88. Mixed number is 3 88/100. But we have to simplify that. I'm just going to write over here 3 44/50. Simplifies further. I'm going to erase this so I have room. So it would be 3 22/25. So that's simplified. But to change it to an improper fraction, 3 times 25, 25, 50, 75, and then 75 plus 22 is 97/25. That's kind of a tough one. 97/25 is the same as 3 22/25, which is 388%, which is 3.88. All right, next one. Starting with an improper fraction, how many times does 4 go into 25? It goes in 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24, with 1 left over. So 6 1/4. Now we have to write the decimal. Well, 1/4 we should have memorized, but we just have to know that there's a 6 in front because of the mixed number, and then 0.25. We could write the percent too. I had this one crossed off. We didn't need it, but it would be 625%. All right, last row, 2%. Writing it in all of its equivalent forms. So 2%, let's think about that. 2 out of 100. Simplify that to 1 out of 50. And then 2 out of 100 is 2/100. So it's 0.02. You could also think of it 2%, move the decimal twice. That's why we have that extra 0. And then it's not a mixed number, not improper, so we didn't need to fill in those boxes. So there is your lesson, changing from everything that we've learned from decimals and fractions, but adding in percentages. Good luck.